Welcome to Entrepreneurs International Network, where entrepreneurs learn, network, and grow. I'm Roger Killen, the organizer. Today, Erik K. Johnson is training us on 6 ways to monetize your podcast. Now, to help us get to know Erik a little bit better at a personal level, I've got 3 questions. Erik, your first question is this: how did you become a podcast talent coach?
Roger, thanks for having me. I became a podcast talent coach from my last career, which was in radio. I was a on-air radio personality. I became a radio program director, launched a lot of successful radio stations and radio teams, coached radio personalities to great success. Did that for about 30 years or so. And about 2010, 2012, started listening to podcasts and really started falling in love with them. But as I listened, I noticed that if they just had a few of the tips and tricks that we use in radio to use on their podcast, their content and their marketing and their execution could be so much better and so much more impactful. And so in 2013, I started coaching podcasters, just like I coached radio announcers and radio personalities.
Ah, great. Well, you've certainly established a very positive reputation for yourself. Second question: what do you do in your free time when you're not coaching podcasters?
I love to coach. So in my free time, I coach a few hockey teams. I coach the University of Nebraska Omaha club hockey team. I also coach a high school hockey team in Omaha. And when I'm not doing that, my son plays junior hockey, U20 junior hockey. So I take in his games and chase my daughter all around the country. She's a performer and currently a sophomore in college. So we try and get out to see her as much as we can as well.
Now, what kind of a performer is your daughter?
She is a stage performer. She's in theater.
Oh, okay.
Both dramatic and musical theater.
You have very talented kids.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's their mother, right?
It is 100% their mother. Their manners surely come from her. I'll tell you that.
Question number 3: what is the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you?
The best piece of advice anybody's ever given me is have fun. Like if you're not having fun doing it, there's no reason to be doing it. I see so many people in careers that they hate or that drags them down or wears them out or sucks the life out of them. And I ask them all the time, why do you keep doing it? Go find something you enjoy. Get out. Take one step backwards in order to take 3 forward. If you're not having fun, there's no sense in doing it. Get out and enjoy life. It's too short.
Great advice. Participants, a few comments for you. Would you please, if you don't have any strong objection, would you please turn on your video? Because from Erik's point of view, it's difficult talking to empty black boxes. It just brings the whole energy of his presentation up to a whole new level. If you would please turn on your video. Secondly, stay muted, and if you have questions, type your questions into the chat. Every 10 minutes or so, I will interrupt Erik and pose your questions to him, and we'll answer the residual questions at the end of his workshop. Now, you're going to be sent a link to the recording of Erik's talk in a few hours, but I nevertheless encourage you to take notes, because the very act of taking notes is going to increase what you absorb by as much as 30%, and you're not going to want to miss any of Erik's wisdom. Erik, are you ready to knock our socks off?
Absolutely ready, Roger.
Then the stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming. Tonight, we're going to talk about 6 ways to monetize your podcast. What I'd like for you to do is before I start my slides, if you could post up in the chat, if you have a podcast, if the name of it, if you don't have a podcast, if you're thinking about starting one. So I kind of have an understanding of who we have on chat tonight. and who we're talking to. Mary Elaine's got the Caregiver Cast. Love that. Thriving Over Surviving podcast with Edie. Love that. On Another Track, based in Edmonton, Canada. David, thanks. Love to see all the podcasts. I'm going to talk about podcasts, but I'm also going to talk about it in a way, if you don't have a podcast, that might be able to help you get started and get where you want to go. So any questions that you have, as I share my slides, when you have questions, post it in the chat. Roger will interrupt me and feed me the questions, because once I start sharing my slides, I can't see the chat, and then we'll go from there. So I appreciate you giving me the time tonight and sharing your time and attention with me. What I'm going to share with you tonight can have a big impact on your journey and your life and your business if you just take action in some of the things that I'm going to teach you tonight. It's 6 ways to monetize your podcast. I am Erik K. Johnson, podcast talent coach, and I want to congratulate you for being here. The info that I'm going to share can really do wonders for you and help you get where you want to go. So by the end of this training, we are going to discover why now is an amazing time for you to take podcasting and leverage it to grow your audience, to grow your influence and attention, and why the platform is so powerful right now compared to all of the other platforms that are out there for you. I'm going to give you 6 different business models that do not include advertising and sponsorships on your show that you can use to make money with a podcast. I will show you how you can easily leverage the attention that you get on your podcast and monetize that attention. And then I'm at the end of the opportunity, at the end of the program today, I'm going to give you an opportunity for a free strategy call with me. If you'd like to dive a little deeper and create a strategy that you can use with your podcast and content to grow your audience and to just raise your level of influence. At the end of this program, I'm going to give you 75 ways to drive engagement, a free gift from me to you. When you stay all the way to the end of the training, I'll give you an opportunity to get that, to even get more help in leveraging your podcast and attention to make some money and grow your business. So we'll do that at the end. To get the most out of this training, turn off the distractions. I know it's so easy to be in your email and Facebook and checking your texts and those sorts of things. But if you really want to make a difference in your life with the information I'm giving you today, turn off those distractions and just give me the next 60 minutes or so to give you some really valuable information. I also highly recommend you grab a pen and paper so you can take some notes. You're going to want to remember some of the nuances that we go over today. If you're not jotting it down, you're going to miss some important stuff that can help you implement what I teach today. And then at the end, I'll invite you to that strategy call to help you implement your plan if that's what you choose to do. One thing you need to remember is that in order to make money with your podcast or your content, you need to have a plan. Money's not just going to fall out of the sky and all of a sudden happen for you. If you don't have a plan to convert your content and your podcast into revenue, it's not going to happen. And also, multiple streams of income can't happen until you have one that is actually working. So many times we get out and we try and create all of these different streams of income because that's what all the gurus tell us to do. What we need to do is focus on that one specific stream of income until we get it producing some income. And then once we get that done, we can get out and we can start creating those multiple streams of income. I love multiple streams of income, but until you have one, you can't have multiple. So this entire thing I'm teaching today is part of my audience explosion blueprint. This is a 6-step process that I take my clients through to develop their podcast platform, their niche. We really define that niche that they're honed in on. I walk them through their content creation, how they're going to present it on their show, and the actual content they're going to deliver to their audience. Their popularity factor is that personality. That's what keeps people coming back to your podcast time and time again. Anybody can copy your 6 steps to success. If you haven't developed your personality on your show can be copied by anybody. The only thing on your podcast that can't be copied is you and your personality. So we develop that in that personality factor. Your influence roadmap is how we go out and we get attention. We appear on other stages, such as this one here, and we get people to know who we are and what we're all about. And we invite them to our party and have them come listen to our show. Then our money plan is where we monetize that attention. And then we create raving fans and we send them out into the world to tell everybody else about our show, because studies show most people find out and discover new podcasts through word of mouth. Whether that's mentioned in a blog, mentioned on a social media post, mentioned on another podcast, their friend tells them about it. Some sort of word of mouth is the primary way people discover new shows. So creating those raving fans there at the end is how we continue to grow our podcast. In today's training, we're going to focus right here on this money plan. And that's what I want to teach you today, is how we take this attention that we're generating with our podcast and turn it into some revenue. So a little bit about me, this little hut right here, this is where I started in radio. This was my very first radio job. I fell into radio completely by accident. This little hut here, this Quonset hut, has 4 rooms in it. Well, if you count the bathroom as a room, there was actually the studio, the bathroom, the lobby, and then an office/production room. My brother worked at this radio station, and I got into it completely by accident. He and I grew up with a single mom. We lived in this little house right here in Nebraska, been in Nebraska my entire life. And we grew up here. My mom, she would get out and create side hustles 9 ways to Sunday. She built wedding cakes in our kitchen. And my brother and I would take them out and deliver them on Saturdays for weddings. She was doing all she could to make money to raise my brother and I. And that's where I really learned my passion for that side hustle and that entrepreneurship. In that little garage there, we'd create haunted houses when we were kids and charge the neighborhood kids a quarter to come go through our haunted house, or I'd put on a magic show, or we'd do all sorts of crazy stuff to earn $1. That eventually took me here to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, because I went there to get my architecture degree. And I was going through college, about the 3rd year of college. I was doing well in architecture. I had intended to be an architect since I was 12 years old. All of the classes I took through middle school and high school were all focused on me becoming an architect. Calculus, drafting, all of it, physics. 3rd year of college, I started falling out of love with architecture. Architecture started becoming computerized. It started losing the romance of the pen and paper. And that's when I discovered radio. As I was getting my architecture degree, the general manager of this radio station called the house looking for my brother, because my brother happened to work there for him. He needed somebody to work on the weekends. I said, no, he's not here right now. He said, hey, I need some help. Would you be interested in coming in on the weekends to run the board for us? You don't even have to be on the air. All you have to do is run the board. I said, sure, I can do that. I'm a college kid. I'm a broke college kid. I need some money. And so I went to work for him at this radio station here completely by accident, just to earn some extra college money. Fell out of love with architecture, fell into love with radio, finished my architecture degree, and never looked back. Stayed in radio ever since. And since then, I've gone on to interview the likes of George Strait or Ice-T back when I was in college, or Zach Brown from the Zach Brown Band. So many great artists have come through the radio stations, and I've had a great chance to meet them. And I don't tell you all of this to brag by any means. I tell you this because if I can overcome my shyness and my introvertedness and become a solid on-air performer and a successful podcaster, you can do it as well. The deal is that I spent the last 30 years in radio and podcasting trying to figure out by trial and error. And the benefit that you have now is that you can learn by all of my bruises and all of my missteps, and you can get there easily. As I was going through radio, I had this deep desire to own a radio station. And I was going along trying to become management material and owning a radio station. But as I was in radio for a while, radio stations started getting gobbled up by big corporations for millions and millions of dollars, and um, it became impossible for the little guy to own a radio station. And that's when I discovered podcasting. And I thought, I can get on a podcast, do whatever I want, nobody else's rules, my rules. I create the rules, talk about anything I want, and still get to perform and interact with the people and share my expertise and my knowledge. And that's when the passion for radio really came back. It started to wane there when I realized I wasn't going to be able to own a radio station, but now I can do the same thing with my rules in podcasting. And I got lucky and got into it completely by accident. And now you can get in just by following an easy process. You can get started with all the trial and error that it took me to get into it. So the podcast is phenomenal. It's a great way, especially if you're a coach or a consultant or an information expert. It's a great way to demonstrate your authority in the industry, in your niche. But you have this opportunity to get in and tell people what you know and demonstrate your authority and your expertise and your knowledge, all of that good stuff. You can get in front of this crowd each and every week when you publish an episode. It's just a tremendous way to build that know, like, and trust that we hear so much about. And you can attract those ideal clients to your show and get them to come listen to you each and every week. But the great part about it is they actually subscribe to it. You know, they want to hear you demonstrate your expertise. They want to hear you share your knowledge in your space. So if you're an information expert, podcasting allows you a phenomenal benefit to get in front of that audience each and every week. Here's a few statistics for you. If you're not leveraging podcasting to its fullest extent, just take a look at the online stats right now. There are over 600 million blogs available today on the internet. That's according to Statista 2021. So it's pretty fresh data. Blogs haven't grown very much over the past few years. 600 million blogs has stayed pretty standard. YouTube, everybody thinks YouTube's all the rage. There are 37 million YouTube channels. Now, those are channels you can subscribe to. Those aren't YouTube creators. Those are actually channels that you can go click the subscribe button and get their videos on a regular basis. That's according to YouTube this year. There are only 2 million podcasts. According to Podcast Insights 2021, podcasting has doubled over the past year. A year ago at this time, there were about 1 million podcasts available. Now there are 2 million. And I know you're saying, well, Erik, how do I stand out? I'm just 1 in 2 million. How do I stand up and cut through? Well, would you rather be 1 in 2 million, or would you rather be 1 in 600 million? That's the power of podcasting. People can subscribe to you, put you right in their pocket, and take you everywhere they go. Podcasting has a couple really, really big benefits over YouTube, over video, over blogs. And that's the fact that it's portable. People can take your podcast with them anywhere they go. They can consume it while they're doing other things. If you're creating a podcast, people can listen to your podcast while they're driving, while they're out running, while they're in the shower. It's pretty difficult to consume a blog or a YouTube video while you're doing any of those things. People can just tuck you in their pocket and take you with them everywhere they go. And the numbers are in your favor too. If you just look at the statistics, 1 in 4 people listen to a podcast on a weekly basis. This was last year's Jacobs Media Tech Survey. Their 2021 tech survey just came out. It shows very similar numbers as well. 25% of the population listening to a podcast on a weekly basis. 104 million people say they've listened to a podcast in the past month. That's fresh data from the Infinite Dial study. 104 million people have listened to a podcast in the past month. The number of podcasts, like I told you earlier, has doubled year over year to 2 million. But listening to podcasts, those that listen, has increased 58% in just the past 3 years. It's expected to double again in the next 5 years. The audience is growing exponentially, and you can get in now and get in on it while it's hot. The future is big and it's bright, and there's so much waiting for you out there in the realm of podcasting. It allows you to get in front of your audience, demonstrate your authority so people get to know who you are and what you're all about. When you tell stories on your podcast, it lets people understand what you value and what you believe in so they know whether or not they like you. And as you tell those stories, then they decide whether or not they trust you as well. It is such an amazing platform, um, but you need to use it and leverage it to its fullest potential in order to attract your ideal clients, demonstrate your authority, and grow your business. When I ask podcasters why they aren't succeeding, they tell me they face three big challenges. The first one is that podcasting's too complicated. Well, they make it too complicated. The second is they have a poor strategy to leverage their audience and make money with their show. And the third is they really have no one to show them how to do it the right way, who has had success in the podcasting space. The first challenge we can overcome fairly simply. It's an easy process. Just don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. That's my motto with pretty much everything I teach in podcasting. Don't make it so difficult. The amount of equipment that you need to create a podcast is a USB microphone, similar to the one I'm using here. Just plugs right into your computer and it can record. You can record into Zoom doing interviews. You can record straight into free software like Audacity that you can download. It's really easy to record. Interview style is the easiest way to record a podcast. You don't have to create a lot of content. You just need to ask a lot of great questions. Zoom will record that for you. You put that into your editing software and you edit it just like you would edit a Word program. If you can edit Microsoft Word, you can edit audio. You highlight it, you hit delete, it goes away. You put your cursor there, you put insert, and it inserts it. All the same commands that you use with Microsoft Word, you use with audio editing software. You publish it on your website, and now you get out and promote it and bring a whole lot of people to your show to come and listen. You just find stages to speak on. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there and gurus that can teach you all of these ways to create a podcast that make it so much more difficult than it needs to be. And you can sift through all of it and waste a lot of time. But here's the secret. Creating a podcast around your superpower is super easy. You just buy a microphone, plug it into your computer, record your interviews, and you post them. It's that easy. Teach and then interview on your show and post it, and you're good to go. The steps are super easy to understand. In fact, I teach 6 steps in my podcast fast blueprint. When we go to launch a show, I teach you how to launch your podcast in 30 days. Your program is what you're going to talk about. What niche are we in? Your purpose is your why. We want to create a solid why. If you don't have a strong why and a purpose behind creating your show, you're going to find it very difficult to create a show on a regular basis. And then your platform is the content, the shape of your show. Is it going to be an interview show, or are you going to teach? So once we create that foundation, then we can move on to producing episodes, promoting it to our audience, and profiting from the show. But it's really 6 steps, and it doesn't need to be any more difficult than that. These two right here, this is Sadie on the left and Sasha on the right. Sadie went through my podcast fast blueprint to launch her podcast in 30 days. They have the idea for the Meathead Test Kitchen last summer. They are big workout fans and they eat healthy. And they released their first episode back last August 16th. And 31 episodes in, they'd interviewed all sorts of great people, local business owners, a Titan Games athlete. They interviewed Mrs. America contestant, an MMA fighter, CrossFit. I mean, all these people who are in the health and weightlifting spaces like they are. And they started leveraging their podcast to make money. They started selling merch on their website. They have partnered with local leisure companies, like clothing companies that you work out in, like workout clothing. They partnered with those to boost their brands, and they've created a partnership there. They started creating their podcast with a video component. Now they're posting that on YouTube just so they can be seen on multiple levels. And their podcast is out on all the major platforms. It's been ranked in the top half of all podcasts in just the first 2 months they were released. And now they're going to release a cookbook, and they have all sorts of great projects up their sleeves coming on when the pandemic's over. But it's just a variety of ways that they've created by getting on and talking about something that they love each and every week. And it's just an amazing way for you to enjoy what you do, talk about something that you love, and then leverage it to make some money.
Erik, are you open for a question?
Absolutely, Roger.
So Earl is asking, subscribing. The subject is subscribing. And the question is, do they subscribe to me or the platforms?
So your podcast lives on an audio host, like Libsyn or Blueberry or one of these podcast hosts. That's where you upload your audio. That's kind of like a storage unit for your audio. So you take all of your episodes and you put it in your storage unit over there on a platform like Libsyn. And then you tell all of the podcast players what your address is. So you go tell Apple, and you go tell Spotify and iHeartRadio and Stitcher and all of these other players what your address is. And now every time you put a new episode into your storage unit, all of the players ping your storage unit and they go, oh, there's a new episode, and they suck it in. So you don't have to distribute your podcast to all of the players. You just put it in your storage unit, and then all the players come and get it. So now a listener subscribes to your podcast through their favorite player. So they may listen, they may subscribe on Apple Podcasts. They might subscribe on iHeartRadio. They might subscribe on Spotify. They might subscribe on Google Play or Amazon. You're not posting your audio to all of those platforms. You're just putting your audio in your audio host, in your storage unit, and all of the players and platforms have your address. So they're subscribing on their favorite player.
Jack is asking, do you have a specific recommendation for hosting and distribution?
I do. I am an affiliate of Libsyn. I started my podcast with Libsyn, and I've been on Libsyn ever since. They're one of the biggest. A lot of the big shows are with Libsyn. You can get a Libsyn account for as little as $5 a month. Libsyn is Libsyn. If you go to podcasttalentcoach.com/Libsyn, you'll find it right there. But Libsyn they've been around a long time. They know what they're doing. They have fantastic customer service, that's the one thing I love about them. Be careful about free services. There are a lot of them out there that will let you post your audio for free. The problem with free is that as a company, it's really hard to make money when you're giving your stuff away for free. So the last thing you want is to have 56 episodes with an audio host who suddenly goes out of business because they're not making any money because they're giving it all away for free. So spend as little as $5 a month with Libsyn and host it with a quality company.
Pavna wants you to spell it, please, the name of the audio host you recommended.
Sure, it's Libsyn. It's Libsyn. It's short for Liberated Syndication. Libsyn.
Gobinder wants to know, how about the length of time? I think he means the length of an episode.
There is no right answer to that question. There's no such thing as too long. There's only too boring. As long as you can hold the attention of your audience, your podcast can be as long as you want it to be. There are podcasts that are very successful that are 7 minutes long. There are very successful podcasts that are 3 hours long. It's all up to you. It's like when you get on stage to give a speech, how long should it be? Well, it should be as long as you can keep the attention of your audience.
Jillian says Anchor question mark question mark.
Anchor's a decent platform. Yeah, actually, Anchor, I think, will host your audio and distribute it as well. They are a player plus I think the problem with Anchor FM is that Anchor.fm is you record it in real time. I don't know that you post to Anchor. I don't have a whole lot of experience with them, but I have not heard really bad things about them. So
thanks, Erik. No further questions. Back to you.
fantastic. So there's a big myth out with when I talk to podcast hosts and I say, what is your challenge? Well, I want to grow my audience because I want to make money with my show. And they want to make money with ads and sponsorships. They want a big audience so they can go sell it to sponsors. And the problem with making money with ads and sponsorships is that people are fleeing traditional media because they don't want to sit through all of the commercials. They want to get away from radio and television because the commercial breaks are getting so long. So they're coming to podcasting for that reprieve. And now you want to take your show and you want to clutter it up with all of these ads and sponsorships. That's exactly what people don't want. So don't do that. Don't. And you need a really, really, really big audience to get ads and sponsors most of the time. You usually need about 5,000 downloads per episode, and only 6 or 7% of all podcasts hit that threshold. So if your goal is to make money with ads and sponsorships, it's a tough road to hoe. There are so many better ways to make money with your show, and that's what I want to show you today with 6 ways to make money with your podcast. And I'll give you some case studies as well. The first way you can make money with your show is to share your information and let your prospects start their journey down that sales process with you. This is almost like your lead magnet. It's how people get that free taste of what you have to offer. And then you can invite them to join you on the process and take them down the way. The second way is to highlight your coaching. One of my mentors, Shane Sams, runs the Flip Lifestyle podcast. He teaches families how to create membership sites. And on his show, he brings on people who are members of his membership site, and he interviews them and coaches them to make their membership site better. So basically, he's demonstrating to his audience how he coaches inside of his membership site. And at the beginning and the end of every episode, he tells you how to become a member of the Flip Lifestyle community. So he highlights the coaching right on there. If you've ever listened to the Dave Ramsey show, Dave Ramsey with Financial Peace University, he does the same thing. Caller after caller comes on and asks Dave for advice on how to get out of debt. And Dave will walk them through his Financial Peace University's baby steps. One of the 8 baby steps he'll use to help that person solve their problem. He'll demonstrate his coaching right there. And he'll always invite people to become a member of Financial Peace University at their local church or wherever Financial Peace University is being conducted. It's a great way to highlight little pieces of your coaching on your show, and then direct people on how to get more of what you have to offer. This here is Oscar Trimboli. Oscar came to me. He did an amazing interview style podcast. But he came to me and he said, Erik, my show's not doing anything to grow my consultancy. I need your help. We need to figure out where it goes. Now, Oscar is a mentor, a speaker. He's a leadership coach. He's an author and a podcaster. Corporations hire Oscar to come speak to their organization to help them be better listeners. CEOs and upper level management tend to be these type A personalities that do a lot of talking and not much listening. So Oscar goes in and he helps them become better listeners. His book is called Deep Listening: Impact Beyond Words. And Oscar is an amazing listener. As I listened to that first season of his show, Oscar did an amazing job listening to his guests, and he made his guests look great. But he never mentioned what he does. He never offered his listeners an opportunity to go deeper with him, to get more information of what he has to offer. He rarely mentioned his book. He didn't do anything to demonstrate his expertise around the interviews. And so we took what Oscar did and we changed it a little bit. He still did the interviews, but he took time to demonstrate his authority before and after the interview to allow people to understand what he did. And then he invited people to come along that journey. He invited them to his workshops. He invited them to get his book and his playing cards and the other things he had to offer. And we restructured his show to demonstrate his authority and make it a little bit better. So now his podcast and his business are now better aligned. His podcast demonstrates what his business does. It demonstrates his coaching and his consulting and what he has to offer businesses. And it's now become a great lead generator to get people into his consultancy and reach out to him to work with him. And it's a great way for him now to gain new clients because they understand what he does and what he has to offer. It's just a way to bring the two together. The third way you can monetize your show is to demonstrate your stuff. If you have a course, if you have a book, if you have other products and services, you can use your podcast to demonstrate exactly what you do by demonstrating those things right there on your podcast each and every week. My friend Rennie Gabriel has a great book on creating wealth. And on his podcast, he just read a chapter or a half a chapter on each episode of his podcast from his book. So it was like the audio book, but it was part of the podcast. And it was a way for the people to get to know what his book was all about. And if you want the entire book, if you want the physical book, here's where you can go buy it. So you demonstrate your course or just a little piece of your course or a little piece of whatever it is you're selling on your show, and then direct people on how to go buy more of that. So it's a way to give them a little sample and then tell them where they can buy the whole thing. The fourth way to monetize your show is by networking. Networking is such a powerful way to find your ideal clients. Your podcast allows you a way to connect and communicate with people who you might not otherwise be able to communicate with. This here is Zoe Routh. Zoe came to me. She's an expert on people stuff. Zoe, originally from Canada, now lives in Australia, and she works with corporations worldwide, helping them with their people stuff, as she says. She goes into companies and corporations and she helps them break down their silos and to communicate better amongst their teams. And so when Zoe came to me, I said, okay, Zoe, what are your downloads? How many downloads are you getting each episode? What's your audience look like? And she said, I have no idea. And I said, Zoe, how do you not know how many downloads you're getting? She goes, well, that's not why I podcast. It doesn't really matter to me how many downloads I'm getting. I use my podcast to open doors for those that I want to network with. She said, it's much easier for me to call a CEO and invite them to be a guest on my podcast and get them to say yes than it is for me to call a CEO and ask them if I can get 15 minutes of their time, or if I can take them out to coffee, or if I can stop in for an appointment. They don't want to talk to me to have me sell them something. But when I invite them to be on my podcast and talk about their business and the communication within their organization, they are more than happy to come on my show and talk to me about what they do. And when they do that, that's where I begin developing the relationship with them. We open that line of communication. We start chatting. We talk about what the interview is going to be all about. And we start setting up the interview and what it looks like. And we communicate ahead of time. And then when we're ready to interview, we get together and we chat again. We have another point of contact and we talk all about the interview and we record the interview. And then after the interview, I let them know when the interview is ready to go live so they can share it with their team or their audience. And we have a second or a third point of contact. And I just keep reaching out to them over and over and over again. And we build this relationship. And then once we've built the relationship, then moving on to the conversation, the sales conversation becomes so much easier because uh, we've already we've already struck up that relationship. She uses her podcast to open doors to those she wouldn't otherwise be able to get in front of. It's an amazing way to network with people you can't typically reach. The fifth way to monetize your show is through affiliate relationships. Pat Flynn started his podcast doing just this. It's all about affiliate relationships. You build an audience. You don't have to create any products or services. You just market the products and services of other people. And it's an amazing way to be able to monetize your show without having to put in the work to create the course or do the market research to determine what the course should be. You just find great JV partners and you bring them on your show, interview them about what they have to offer, create affiliate relationships with them there, and you're able to monetize your show through affiliates. It's a really strong way to connect and monetize. This here is Mark Mawhinney. He's of Natural Born Coaches. He owns the Natural Born Coaches podcast, and the Coaching Jungle is his Facebook group. It's over 20,000 people strong. Mark is my former coach, and he is all about JV partnerships. On his show, almost every interview that he does on his show, he then does a follow-up webinar with that guest, and he has a JV relationship with them, a joint venture relationship, where when people buy from the webinar, Mark gets an affiliate commission from that purchase. But he finds people that he trusts, that he knows, he values their content, he knows that it's good for his audience. He brings them on the show, interviews them about what they have to offer to give his audience an overview of that concept. He invites his listeners to the webinar that they have or the workshop that they have a few days later. On that webinar, they create an offer that gets into the affiliate or the JV partners program, and Mark makes a commission. So Mark doesn't have to create anything. It's all right there with his affiliate. Mark does have his own products. He has a coaching service. It's a high-end coaching program. He lives in Canada as well. And he does a phenomenal job. If you're interested, if you're a coach at all, become a member of the Coaching Jungle, and you'll see what Mark has to offer over there. But he is one that leverages his show in an affiliate sort of manner.
Open to a question?
You bet.
Pavna wants to know, is there an ideal frequency of a podcast? I think she's referring to the frequency of podcast episodes.
I highly recommend that you do an episode once a week. People are creatures of habit, and you want them to get in the habit of listening to your show. It doesn't matter what day you publish. It only matters that you publish on the same day every week. The great thing about podcasting is that people can listen to your show anytime they want. So if you publish on Wednesday and I listen on Saturday, I don't really care that you publish on Wednesday. I only care that it's there on Saturday when I'm ready to listen. If you go every other week, people don't get in the habit of listening. If you go every day, people usually don't have that much time to spend with your show and they fall behind. There's a setting in most podcast players like Apple Podcasts where you can set it to only download the last 5 episodes or the last 3 episodes or the last 10 episodes. If your subscriber doesn't listen to those episodes, it stops downloading. So on my podcast, I listen on Apple Podcasts. I have it set to download the last 5. If it downloads 5 and I haven't listened to any of them, it stops downloading until I physically go into that show and say, yes, I'm still interested in receiving this podcast. And because it's not uploading or it's not downloading fresh episodes, all of the episodes are ranked in newest to oldest. So your podcast just keeps moving down, moving down, moving down, and then it's out of sight and it's never to be seen again. So if you're releasing every day and people fall behind, all of a sudden your podcast is not being consumed anymore. So once a week is usually what I recommend. It's a schedule most people can stick with, and it's a schedule that most podcast consumers enjoy.
Helena makes a comment. I have found that affiliates aren't as interested in you until you have a substantial following already. Please comment.
Sometimes that's true. It all depends on the affiliate you're looking for. So if your niche is super specific and you have a small but powerful audience in that niche that's highly active, a smart joint venture partner will jump on that. If you have a generic business podcast and you're looking for a business affiliate and 27,000 other podcasts are looking for that same affiliate, you might have a challenge landing that particular guest. If you find smart guests, they understand that podcast episode 7 may only have 23 listeners, but 3 years from now, when you're big time and people are going back to listen to episode 7, it's still going to be there and they're still going to get a benefit from it. So it's just a matter of finding the right partners.
Sharon asks, why do we need to download? Don't you get the same effect from streaming the podcast?
Yes, you do. Podcast players download to your phone or to whatever device you're listening on. In order to stream it, you would typically stream it on the website. So it's a matter of location. On my podcast player, I'm subscribed to a variety of shows. When new episodes are published, they download to my phone. I don't manually download them. If I wanted to stream it, I would go stream it from a website.
Jack asks, would you recommend having episodes banked, say 1 to 10, fully produced shows to keep up with publishing cadence?
Yes and no. So if it's preventing you from starting, do not wait until you get 10 episodes in the can before you hit go, because you're going to learn so much by publishing those first few episodes, getting feedback from those that listen, stubbing your toe, tripping, falling, making the mistakes. So you want to publish early and often. So when you get episode 1 and 2 done, publish them and get rolling. Once you're in the flow, in the swing of things, I highly recommend you stay 3 weeks ahead, because you never know when things are going to happen. Your computer's going to crash, your hard drive's going to go to crap, you're going to lose your voice, you're going to get sick, something's going to happen, grandma's going to die, and you're going to have to be out of town for 2 weeks. You want at least 3 episodes in the can, so when life hits you, you can stay on track. So don't let it prevent you from launching, but yes, it is always good. You don't need 10 episodes ahead. You only need 3 to ensure you against life happening.
Pavna asks, is there a structured template to say a 10 to 15 minute podcast?
It's called a show clock. There is no structured template. The great thing about podcasting is you get to decide what it looks like. If you want to email me at coach@podcasttalentcoach.com, I'll send you a show clock template. And it's very generic, but it allows you to build your own show clock, and then you just populate that week after week. So it's something that you create your own template for your show.
And Earl wants, do you recommend sending the direct link to individuals you know or have a connection?
Direct link for your podcast? I would send them to somewhere they can subscribe. So if you send them, figure out if they're an Android or an Apple user, and then send them to one of the preferred platforms there, or you can send them to your website. When you post your podcast on your website, I highly recommend you have subscribe links right there to the big players. You want subscribe links to Apple Podcasts, to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Amazon. If you have those 5 subscribe links on your website, people will be able to subscribe to your show if they like what they hear.
No further questions, Erik. Back to you.
The last way to monetize your show and attract your ideal clients is to leverage media. There are always reporters who are looking for great interviews. There are always other podcasts and other stages that are looking for great speakers. By having a podcast, it's like your own sizzle reel, like your own demo reel. People can listen to your show and understand that you have the ability to hold your own in front of a microphone. So when they're looking for a great interview on a particular subject, they know that you're able to handle yourself and you're able to give great answers and be that source that they're looking for. So leveraging media gets you even more exposure in that public relations area where you can get the exposure, you can help them, they can help you. And it's that PR way to leverage what you do to get attention and get exposure and bring clients in. In all 6 of these ways to monetize your show, make sure that you are telling people how to get more of what you do, where they can find you, where they can learn what you do, and how they can come and be part of your little tribe. So many people forget that call to action. They go out and they give a great interview. I was listening to a podcast the other day, great guest, and they said, that's fantastic. Where can people learn more about you? And they started into all of their social media platforms. And I'm like, no, don't send them to social media. Like, that's not going to do anything for you. Get them on your email list, get them on a phone call with you, get them to come to your website, get them to subscribe to the show. Social media, you don't own social media, and that can go away at any minute. So have a single focused call to action and get people on a platform where you can communicate with them on a regular basis.
Mary Elaine would like to know, please repeat the 5 platforms again.
5 platforms. Yes. The 5 platforms are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Google Play.
Pavna asks, what specific functionality does a website need to have in order to host a podcast?
If you have a plugin, you can just get if you have a WordPress. So I send you to Libsyn. If you have a WordPress site, Libsyn has a player. You just copy the code and paste it in your blog post. It's super easy. If you're on Blueberry, Blueberry's got a plugin that you can just put into it and it'll play. It's usually either a plugin or just a piece of code that you paste into the blog post.
Colin asks, do you recommend podcasters tapping into Patreon to monetize listeners and fans? If so, what strategy do you recommend? Premium/additional content, ?
A lot of podcasters use Patreon, but it's trying to fill up a 5-gallon bucket a drip at a time. If you're looking to monetize your show, you really want to monetize your show with a garden hose and not an eyedropper. So find ways you can monetize your show where you're getting big chunks of money. If you can find a joint venture partner who's selling $1,000 course and you're getting $500 for every sale, and you get him on your show and he sells 5 or 10 of those, you're making real money. If your audience is donating $5 a month to you, you need a lot of people donating $5 a month to make any difference in your life.
Jillian asks, is having a microphone more efficient in sound and quality versus using her cell phone?
A microphone's always going to be the best quality. You can hear how Roger sounds a little more hollow and a little more echoey than I do because Roger's using the microphone on his computer where I'm using an external microphone. If you're recording it on your phone, it's going to be kind of in between the two of us. So it's going to be a little bit stronger sound with a little less echo and a little less background noise, but not quite as good as a microphone.
No further questions.
Great. So a lot of people tell me they don't know where to start. They don't have a mentor who can walk you step by step in creating your strategy to attract clients. This here is Tavana Denise. Tavana came to me and said, Erik, I need help launching my podcast. Tavana um, is fantastic. She was a nurse, and she learned that she, a lot like me with architecture, she realized nursing wasn't for her. And she got out of nursing and started her own business. And all she started finding that all of these nurses, she started a business helping people find work they love. And so all of these nurses started coming to her saying, how did you do it? How did you get out of it? How did you escape? And so she honed her business and niched it down to a spot where she now only helps nurses change careers. Like a lot of uh, staffing places help people get into nursing. Tavana helps people get out of nursing. So she launched her podcast called Breaking Protocol, using my podcast Fast Blueprint. She got through it in 30 days. She transitioned out of her nursing job. She began coaching other nurses to find their true passion. She just posted on Facebook the other day. She had her feet in the sand. She was by the ocean. She said she's a 10-minute walk from the ocean now and living the life of her dreams. And she teaches coaches how to attract clients on demand. She uses her podcast to promote her networking events. She has these little group mentoring programs where she brings nurses in and they have a chat about where they want to go and what they want to do. And in that, she upsells them to her one-on-one programs. And she was fully booked in 90 days. And it was just a fantastic place. But Tavana didn't know where to start. And she came to me and we created her strategy and got her on the path to success. So a lot of people don't know where to start, and I understand that. But if you would like to use podcasting to grow your audience and start bringing in your ideal clients where you could demonstrate your authority on your show each and every week. You're talking directly to a group of people, your ideal clients, each and every week, helping them overcome their struggles. You're helping them just get over the hurdles that they're encountering, and you're building that powerful relationship with them. That's what podcasting can do for you. It allows you to build that relationship. This is where friendships start right here. And you can be talking to them each and every week, demonstrating your authority. And that's what all of my programs do. And where I take your hand and walk you through every step of the way. So if you'd like to have a conversation with me where you and I just sit down and talk about where you are and where you'd like to go, and what your podcast strategy might be, I'd love to help you do that. You can get a 30-minute call with me, no charge, just my gift to you. It's a strategy call. We basically sit down at the very beginning. I find out where you are today. I find out where you want to be in a year. So 12 months from now, what do you want to achieve and accomplish? We talk about what you've tried, what's worked and hasn't worked. We brainstorm some ideas maybe you haven't tried yet. We create a strategy for you and a step-by-step plan for you to get to your goals. And it's my gift to you. It's no charge at all. This is not a sales pitch in disguise. I don't twist your arm and try and hard sell you into one of my programs. If at the end of it, that's something you'd like to discuss, we can surely do that. But this whole call is about defining your goals and figuring out where you'd like to go on this podcast journey. We develop a plan. So by the end of the call, you know what your very next step is going to be. If at the end of the call, you'd like to talk about getting my help, we can surely do that, but that's up to you. The two of us need to like each other first before we can talk about going out on a date. So this is just a way for us to get to know each other. See if you like what I have to offer. If you want help, then it's something that you and I can surely discuss. If not, you're going to have a plan in your hand and you're going to be able to go on your way and get that done. So if you don't have a mentor who can take your hand and walk you every step of the way and show you the process, you can go to podcasttalentcoach.com/apply, APPLY. There's the full description of the call is right there for you. You can click that apply button, fill out a couple questions. I think there's 5 or 6 questions there about where you are on your journey now. And it'll take you to my calendar. I will send you that link and we'll schedule a call, and you and I sit down. I say 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes 60 minutes. It all depends on how much you like to talk. So there's really no limit to it. We just want to create a solid strategy for you. So that's at podcasttalentcoach.com/apply. If you want your free gift, 75 ways to drive engagement with your podcast, here's a tip for you. Even if you don't have a podcast, if you're doing YouTube or you're doing a blog or you're doing something else and you want engagement, a lot of the tips in here help you create engagement with your audience, regardless of the platform you're using. So if you go to podcasttalentcoach.com/apply and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you're going to find a link there that will take you to that resource, 75 ways to drive engagement with your podcast. It's right there, podcasttalentcoach.com/apply.
Erik, you've got time for a few questions?
Let's do some questions, Roger.
Pavna wants to know if you have some suggestions about a good microphone.
Good is relative, Pavna. You want good and inexpensive, or do you want good and really expensive, or you want something in between? So a decent microphone, I'm going to have to type this in the chat here so you know how to spell it. A decent microphone is the Samson Q2U. It's a USB microphone. It's very similar to this one here. I'm using an Audio-Technica ATR 2100. However, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 is not made anymore. So you can't get it unless you buy it used. But the Samson Q2U is very similar to the ATR 2100. That microphone will cost you about, I don't know, $65 or $70. It's not that expensive. Actually, you can get the microphone, the boom arm, the windscreen, the whole thing for about $100 on Amazon or B&H Audio. It's a great starter kit, and it sounds perfect for what you're doing. So that's one way to do it. A really good top of the line XLR microphone that you're going to have to plug into an audio board is the Electro Voice RE320 or RE20. That's a $300 or $400 microphone, depending on which model that you get. Those are radio quality microphones. So that's an RE20 or an RE320 from Electro Voice. And then the other microphone is the Shure SM7B, which is really a good microphone too. Shure SM7B. So those are the microphones. I would recommend you start with the Samson Q2U.
Thanks, Erik. John wants.
Now, hold on. One more thing, Roger. A lot of people want to go get the Blue Yeti. Blue Yeti is a big, really cool looking microphone. And it works really well if you know how to use it. Unfortunately, that microphone has about 24 different settings on it. And so if you don't know what you're doing, that microphone can send you off the deep end really fast. So be careful if you're going to get talked into a Blue Yeti. And it's $100 rather than $60. So there you go.
John Smith wants to know if he can use a podcast to promote a software product.
Absolutely. You can use it for whatever you want. So let's say you have a software product. Like, let's say I'm promoting Hindenburg Journalist, my audio editing software. I just have to be very descriptive with the software in what it does on my podcast. So if I'm describing it on the show and describing what it does, what I might do is subscribe the benefit or the transformation that the users get by using the audio software. And then if you want a demo of that software, head over to my website /demo and you can see the demo of it right there. But talk about the success and talk about the transformation that people get and the results they get from the software, and then send them over to the website for a demo. Because if you're just doing the software over and over and over again, it's going to be the same episode over. So I would interview people who have used the software and had success with it. And rather than talking about the features of the software, let's talk about the benefits of the software. People buy results; they don't buy features. So focus that on your podcast.
Last two questions real fast. Can I use my Instagram to drive people to my podcast by video cam my interviews?
Absolutely. So that's a great way. The problem with using social media to drive people to your podcast is that group of people typically already know who you are. If they're already following you on social media, they're already aware of you. So it's important to do that in order to maintain and keep those listeners coming back week after week after week. But then the other bucket you have to go fish in is find new listeners to come. So growing your audience is a two-pronged attack. You have to find new listeners to come to your show. Like I'm talking to all of you, most of you have never heard of me, invite you to come listen to Podcast Talent Coach. So I'm bringing in new listeners, but then I need to keep my current listeners coming back time and time again. So that if you're not keeping your current listeners coming back, it's like trying to fill up a bucket that has holes in the bottom, right? The more water you put in, the more water comes out. You never get more water in the bucket. So you need to keep people coming back and you need to keep new people coming in. That's how you grow your audience.
David, this is the last question. David's question is, I have a very high profile member of parliament to interview on Saturday. Do you have any advice on how to interview these type of guests?
Go to podcasttalentcoach.com. Right there on the homepage, you will see my 17 most powerful podcast interview questions ever. And all 17 questions are designed to get your guest to tell stories. Regardless of if you're interviewing the prime minister or you're interviewing the homeless guy down on the corner, get them to tell stories and your content will be magic. They will say things like, nobody's ever asked me that before, or here's a story I've never told anybody, or you're asking me stuff nobody's ever asked me on a show. That's how your content becomes unique. You get your audience to tell stories. If I say, Roger, what was it like the first time you ever got on and hosted an online event in front of 200 people and didn't know what you were doing? And Roger evokes that emotion and tells me what that's all about. That's when it becomes magic. If I say, Roger, what are your 6 steps to success? I've heard that 27 times on other podcasts. I don't need Roger to tell me again. Like, let's get him to tell some stories that he's never told anybody.
Great. Erik, as always, you have exceeded my expectations, and I'm sure those of the people online with us. Your information, as always, crisp, clear, memorable, all great stuff. On behalf of EIN's almost 80,000 members, I thank you enormously.
Thank you,
Erik.
Roger. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.